The Power Within is a dystopian post-apocalyptic setting inspired by Danmachi, Attack on Titan, Cyberpunk, amongst many others. Where are we? The majority of our play happens in the city, as it's fondly called. What it is a grouping of nations who banded together when the world broke. How it came to be is taboo to speak of, however, we know the truth behind it. You see, a primordial being called the Ancient One used its puppet to deceive mortals into destroying the world as they knew it. It occurred here, at this wizard tower, and many others like it. These wizard towers were used before the Reckoning to encourage balance between the powers of nature and the arcane through the power of magically connected crystals. However, the Ancient One came up with a plan to destroy these towers, to increase his reach to the mortal plane. What it required was a coordinated effort to destroy these towers, therefore he used his puppet to deceive the druids into changing out the crystals on top of these wizard towers. When this task was complete, it set off a chain reaction of destruction that left the world asunder.
Jumping off, alright? And, actually, probably ZZ, you're in, like, your fairy form right now even, right? So you jump off, and you're lighter than everyone else. Like, you could probably glide a little bit with your little fairy wings. Like, they're not full flight wings, but you can glide a little bit. So you, like, turn 180 to look at your friends who are jumping off the tower, and you see from the crystal, like, just space bends into the crystal, and then it blows out with pressure and force, and you're knocked back. So you guys are already falling, and you in particular, ZZ, are like pushed so fucking far away from the tower as you're starting to fall down.
This was later referred to as the Reckoning, and speaking of it has been outlawed. For what reason is currently unknown. To circle back to the city, however, this is where we spend the majority of our play. The Shadow Dragon Association established their hideout in the parish of Shinin in the district of Huanghe. Shinin is a nation themed around China, Korea, and Japan with a cyberpunk twist. Huanghe itself is the epicenter of Shinin, the de facto capital. It's a district of movers and shakers, hard workers, and posh nobility, a target-rich environment ripe for the taking for a daring crew. The Shadow Dragon Association may best be described as a mercenary company. Whether the job is monster hunting, bounties, heists, or something a bit more demonic, the SDA gets the job done. The crew consists of Minji, the chosen leader, the face of the group who also dips her fairy toes in the role of mastermind. Small in stature but large in personality, she commands the respect of the SDA and takes it as her charge to guide them to riches by any means necessary, which sometimes can ruffle feathers. Dog, the old head of the SDA, and the main opposition to Minji's overly optimistic job selection. Dog comes from a tribalistic background where the pack rules, and the good and safety of the pack come first, causing him to butt heads a bit with Minji. His skills as a bounty hunter lend him to be the main tracker for the crew, along with being an overall brute of a fighter. Dukonga, the smith of the group. Dukonga is extremely skilled in soulsmithing, a rare form of crafting that allows for the use of souls to empower weapons, armors, and equipment. He also functions as the main soundboard for Dog and his frustrations. Dukonga has a large family and can understand Dog's hesitation with dangerous jobs. However, he can also see Minji's point of view. He rides a fine line maintaining the relationship between the two, all while trying to be the best guardian angel he can for his adopted daughter, Yuko. Yuko, the youngest of the crew. She's a skilled fighter with a dark background. Her family was killed when she was young, with Dukonga taking her in immediately after. Her aspirations since have been on revenge, and with her target recently coming closer into vision, she's been a heat-seeking missile. Toby, frankly the comedic relief of the group. Toby is consistently a calming force for the crew. He is down for the get down, no matter what it is. He is a summoner who fights in the illegal fight pits with his Eidolon Maxi. Together they make sure the SDA aren't overmatched in any scraps they get into. So what have the SDA been getting into? The SDA christened their first mission with the hunting of a fire drake, an explosive fight with some close calls, but overall, the SDA got the job done. Returning to the city, they were greeted by a stranger, the mysterious Feyrill. You may recognize her as the Ancient One's puppet from before. You'd be right. However, lore whores may remember she fought off the influence of the Ancient One and has been independent ever since. In her meeting with the SDA, she offered employment, great pay for dangerous work. She wouldn't offer specifics, stating if they were debriefed and then declined the work, she would have to kill them. After a bit of discussion, the SDA agreed to take a means of contacting her later so they can discuss the proposition. This action is what began the internal strife within the SDA. Next, they took on the bounty of Tai Jin, a member of the Honam gang. They had planned to quietly take him alive, however their best laid plans fell through. They ended up being caught out in an alley by the Honam, with an ensuing bloody battle being the result. Thankfully, they triumphed.
Comes in, slides right across his back, and that is his turn.
That didn't have Inspired Courage on it, does it?
It doesn't, so it was a 15 on the hit.
So what does it look like when you kill him?
Bro!
Yes. Oh, that's what was happening.
Dog is coming in. So, like, from death, man, he, like, gets up from the ground, just on all fours almost in a way, still holding his blades, and then he, like, comes across, slides this thing, literally, like, cuts his body in half from his hips.
Hell yeah.
Gets him right in the good spot.
Gets
Oh, man.
Oh, nasty shit. Oh, I love it.
Here we go.
That's a mercenary shit right there.
That's right.
Dude.
During the fight, Tai Jin wound up dead, forcing the SDA to change tactics and trade his body over to a rival gang, the Bakuto, for compensation. This whole job caused some heat with the Honam and the Golden Dragons, causing their movement around town to be harried. With so many ops in town, they decide to leave to hunt a Barath. On the way out, they pass the boulder Feyrill greeted them on. They discuss leaving an opal, the sign for Feyrill to communicate with them. Yuko is neutral. Minji, Dekonga, and Toby want to leave it. Dog firmly does not want to. After much conversation, Minji puts her foot down and leaves the opal, continuing on to the Barath hunt. The fight goes smoothly, with the SDA's teamwork on full display. With sound tactics and overwhelming brutality, they make quick work of the unlucky beast. On the way home at the familiar boulder, a wild Feyrill appeared. Minji and Dekonga try to fish for more information without actually accepting, but the stubborn Feyrill remains cryptic. The most she offers is that it is a very well-paid job. Minji, hearing this, pushes the crew to accepting the job. Yuko attempts to intimidate Feyrill on the threat of any back crossing. Feyrill, in turn, gracefully flexes her power back in kind. Feyrill goes on to explain the job in a bit more details. She wishes to go to the Forbidden Towers in the wild, clean them of all contamination, and use the SDA as the decoy of all the foot traffic in and out of the city, as it's illegal to leave the city without proper authority. The SDA, being monster hunters, make this a possibility. With the heat around the crew calming down a bit and the desire for a passive income, the SDA decide to assault a trap house and make it their own. Tactically breaching from the kitchen, they goad the Honam into funneling their efforts into the meat grinder that is Dog and Yuko. With a literal pile of bodies hindering the movement of the Honam, they become intimidated enough to run. The SDA give chase. Yuko shadow-stepped over a tripped opponent, piercing his skull with her katana, ending him. It's at this moment she is struck with immense bloodlust. Encouraged by Dekonga, who can feel his ancestors' presence, excited with anticipation, she decides to give in to these emotions. With a sudden surge of power coursing through her, she reaches out and turns the fleeing Honam into dust.
I think, she's impetuous enough to just already kind of a rage demon, to just lean into it. So I think, she kind of I think initially she feels that feeling and is like a little taken aback kind of like, whoa, this is kind of another level I've not felt before.
Yeah.
But then just kind of like, gets that grin, and she just leans into it, turns around, and blasts that spell. And
Hell
then
yeah. Look
so
at
they attack roll,
it.
at map or full.
Regular attack. Almost, this is basically kind of like a reaction.
Okay. Oh my god!
Oh,
Ethan,
yeah. Roll that damage.
fucking
Oh, my.
Walker, baby.
Let's fucking go.
So let's see.
I feel like tapping into the trance was a good thing.
Oh god.
And max
Oh
down.
god. Yeah. Let's go.
Oh yeah, what does it look like, man?
Oh hell yeah!
Let's
So,
go.
yeah, she pulls her sword out of the dude she killed, and then she looks behind her, and her eyes just kind of like become these slits as she's kind of weighing what she wants to do. And she just raises her hand, and just that energy balls up, and then just evaporates that guy, just a giant blast.
So, so like the camera is focused in on Yuko while she's doing this, and you can see the guy running in the distance, but he's out of focus. And so yeah, you ball that up, point it at him, and then the camera focuses on him as he just evaporates from it. Hell yeah. As the SDA celebrate Yuko's deadly outburst, Dog notices her pupils had turned to slits. Dragon slits. Nervously, he joins in on the celebration after giving caution to this newfound power. After some time, Dakonga notices Dog staring into his beer and not joining in on the celebrations as much as the others. He tries to lift his spirits to no avail. The two have a conversation trying to parse out what happened and what to make of Dog's hesitations.
Kind of lean back a little bit. Take a hit. And this causes you concern, my friend.
Only because if it's not her making the decision, it might be something that affects us.
Ah, but see, the spirits were lighted with whatever happened. They were not fearful or ashamed. They were excited. But
Yeah, anytime the
if it-
spirits get on their toes, that concerns me.
And if it concerns you, my friend, then I will commune with the spirits tonight. And I shall get you answers as best as I can to calm your heart. Please
I'm
have
not
faith.
worried about me. I'm worried about Minji. Because if we can't control the young blood and she can't control herself, then wild animals get put down in my tribe.
I kind of like the Conga kind of straightens up. He says,
said, "You better react."
Understand this, Doc. We have been friends for quite some time. You have known me in my military days. But know this. If you point your blade to my young one, the only animal putting down will be you. The ancestors will come from their graves and carry you into the dark plane.
That's what I'm trying to avoid here. And I want to put my drink down very firmly on the table and look at the Congo. And trust me, I don't want to do it. But if it comes down to it, I will.
After making so much noise in the city, and with the brewing of inner turmoil, the SDA decide to go on a monster hunt, the target being a Puke Puke. The fight was tough. The SDA's teamwork, a bit in shambles, left them open to the Puke Puke's assaults. Though bloodied, they were able to eventually behead the creature and receive their reward, but you could call into question the SDA spirit. Just in time, however, they were able to open Mashiso, their newly renovated trap house. The SDA enjoyed the evening, encouraging new patrons to party hard. It was a unifying evening with Toby and Dog sharing some Swaggins blend leaf and discussing the finer details of the Summoner fight game. The next day, however, was the awaited Pharaoh mission day. Toby and Dog were both assigned drop-off locations. Toby had his drop-off at the fight pit. While receiving the message, he noticed the messenger's right hand was completely black, It meant nothing to him, so he returned back to the hideout. Dog, who was accompanied by Yuko, were at their drop-off, both complaining about Feyrill and this mission. While they were commiserating, they saw a messenger drop something off at the bench they were sitting at, both noticing the messenger had a fully black right hand. Yuko reacted immediately, chasing after the messenger, who lost her almost instantly. In a rage, Yuko screamed, punching a nearby tree until her knuckles were raw and bleeding. Dog, trying to calm her down, noticed she had that same dragon slit pupil, putting him on edge. Dog asked her a few questions, trying to understand what was happening, but Yuko remained mysterious.
She kind of like, you kind of see her like getting more, like getting angry again. She kind of stops herself, says, I got a lot of history with them. All right, Aniki. I need to get one of them. I need to grab one of them and get all the information I can get. Slit their goddamn necks. You hear me?
And I want to like release the man-blade and be like, I get you. And like I just like have my hand like raised up, like, you know, calm down, like slowly like gesturing it downward. But we need to work together. I can't help you if you don't ask for my help.
She's like, it's not something I really wanted any of you to be. These guys are, they're too dangerous, right? It's something that's personal for me, and I'll deal with it. I'm the key, okay?
We're a pack. And the pack hunts together.
And
don't let the hunt take you.
See her get like, she kind of like looks at you real frustrated for a second. She says, I'll deal with it myself, Anakin. And then she just kind of storms off.
After a few moments, Dog regains his composure and remembers the mission. Reading the note, he realizes they are progressing with the mission that afternoon, and he goes to gather the SDA. While Minji, Dekonga, and Toby are all rather cheerful, Dog and Yuko are a bit downcast. Upon reaching that boulder where Feyrill awaits them, Yuko immediately begins to question her about her affiliation with the Black Fist. Feyrill answers that she pays them, same as the SDA. Yuko does not like this response, but instinct tells her if she acts against Feyrill, she could die. Dekonga tries to calm Yuko, while Feyrill reminds them they have a job to do. With the SDA's emotions high, they travel to one of the ancient wizard towers, a point of corruption from the world's breaking. Feyrill gives them all incense lanterns, a means to survive the tower's literal corrupting presence. With a simpleness that makes no sense for the job, Feyrill states they must go into the tower, cross through the heart there to the other side, destroy that heart, and come back. With Feyrill initiating the charge, the SDA summon their courage and follow her. What they see shocks them to their core. Something akin to tar coats the ground near the tower, decaying all it touches. Creatures made of what looks to be the same stuff attack them with a rage unseen by them before. However, the darkness that surrounds them is in contrast to the light of Feyrill. Her spear, glowing like the sun, evaporates the tar creatures that face her. Feyrill sprints to the heart, cutting it open and disappearing inside, leaving the SDA to this hell alone. Shell-shocked, they do their best to take care of each other and recall the mission. Get through the heart, destroy it, and return. While fighting off the tar creatures on this plane, the members go through the heart, Dog emerging on the other side first, alone. It's as much a nightmare as reality, a hellish mirror of the world he knows. While he does his best to keep the creatures off of Feyrill, he is hit with eldritch fury. As he feels himself plunging into death, Feyrill pleads with him, not today. It is not your time. Her powers surge into him, pulling him back from the brink and healing all that ailed him. Shortly after this, the rest of the SDA emerge. While fighting off all the tar creatures, they are overcome with the presence of the Ancient One, instilling fear. Eventually, they are able to cut down the heart, head back through to the other side, and retreat from the blowback of the collapsing heart. Wasting no time, Pharaoh gave them their payment and left for the city, in a hurry to commence with whatever plans she had. The SDA returned home, demoralized from the day's events, happy for the payment, but questioning if the job was worth it. Attempting to sleep after their day, Yuko tosses and turns for hours before finally drifting into a heavy slumber, and then she has a dream. Yuko, though, you find it difficult to find sleep. You're tossing and turning with your mind racing of Black Fist and tar creatures falling to your blade. Eventually, you nod off, and you drift through the dark void that is your slumber. A peaceful melody slowly reaches your ears, sung by a voice that you haven't heard in years, yet recognize instantly. It is your mother, Risako, singing a lullaby that she would grace you with after particularly harsh training days. You feel warm and weightless, with the sweet embrace of your mother encompassing you. She plays with your hair and says, "You always keep it so short. It would be so pretty if you let it grow." She continues to trace your hair, humming the tune. "When you were younger, I was worried about your survival. You were such a small thing. I'm proud of the woman you have grown into, and I'm proud of the Sujihara you are becoming." She pauses for a moment, taking a breath. "I asked you not to seek revenge for your family all those years ago. I had hoped only for your survival. But now that I see you here, Mizuko, you must end Shoichi. The Sujihara are now corrupted. You must correct what it has become. What it evolves into is up to you." As the last of her words hit you, you start to open your eyes with a hint of your mother's perfume still wafting in your room. With this enlightening dream in her mind, she wanders the streets. Dog, feeling abundantly cautious, follows her. By chance, she comes upon Pharaoh, who motions her to follow her into a tea shop.
Okay, yeah. So Yuko just kind of sips at her tea for a second, and she says, "Before I answer that, I need to know your history with the Black Fist. What led you to hire them? How long have you hired them? Who do you know in the Black Fist?"
Well, I know all of them. I created the Black Fist some time ago. They were... Well, I used them for many things, but they're... It's hard to sound humble, but they're a bit like disciples to me, if you can imagine. They are... most of our fellow believers in what I believe in, and will see the cause through. Does that answer your question?
I guess and you can kind of see, like, because she's trying not to immediately freak out at hearing that they're her disciples. So she says, "Well, I guess I should narrow it down. Are the Sujihara your disciples?"
So you see the slightest of tilt to her head, kind of just like, how do you know that name, right?
Right.
So she tilts her head in a little bit of curiosity. "The Sujihara came to me, how many years ago would that have been? I guess she says how many years that is. That's probably, how old is Yuko now?
She's 23, would have been
So like almost 11 years ago, I think.
Yeah, like almost 15 years ago, I think.
Okay, yeah. So she said that if my memory serves me correctly, they came to me probably 15 years ago to ask to come into my service. Sorry, what was the rest of the question?
Well, that was all she asked.
Okay.
Was like were the Sujihara her disciples? Says, I guess let me narrow it even further down. Then. Was it a man named Shoichi that came to you?
Yes, there was a Shoichi.
She kind of breathes heavily. Says, "Well, you can see her kind of trying to take a calm breath to like chill out, and kind of keep herself focused. Says, "You've been honest with me here, so I'll give it to you at least a little bit straight. The Tsujihara killed my family 12 years ago. Strung my brothers up in the middle of the doorway. It's their usual MO to, when they have a real target, they'll take the family, string them up in the doorway, get you to be in shock immediately, and then just take you out right there. That's what they did to us, but my mom was quick. Was able to get us away, me and her. My dad, I don't know what happened to him. Maybe they got him. I have no idea. But after that, a couple years go by. I guess we were still on their radar. They got my mom too. So I'm after him. Shoichi's the ringleader of it all. He's the one I want ultimately. But I'm going to take all of them out. So,
She's nodding as you say this.
Been looking for leads for a long time, and you're the biggest lead I've got so far. So you tell me, what do I need to do to get information on where Shoichi is?
So she's nodding, and she takes some time to think on it. She says, well, now that you've been more forthcoming, let me speak on it a bit more. Shoichi approached me all those many years ago to be inducted into the Black Fist. He had information that was of interest to me and my higher-ups in some business dealings that he knew of. So we exchanged that to come into the Black Fist, where, well, I could just say that there are a few benefits. After being inducted into the Black Fist, I've heard of this Tsujihara, and it seems that once he was inducted, he used these connections to, well, it seems he commit his coup. And, well, it really meant nothing to me, as it was a people I did not know, and what he was going to do was really his business, not mine. He's been conducting intel missions for me since, but I will say he has become less reliable of late. Seems he's lost his step or ambition, whatever. He's getting a bit too big for his britches.
Yeah, he's a real asshole, if I can put it bluntly.
Yes. I don't know of his exact whereabouts currently, as he has probably come under the assumption that I may or may not be too happy with him. So he always leaves a few people in between us as middlemen. You said that the Tsujihara killed your brothers and your mother. What happened to your father?
No idea. As far as I know, just disappeared. Think he was sent on a mission to do something, but no idea.
Would you have your mask on you?
Oh, the red one?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, she always has that on her when she walks out.
So you probably have that like on your side, right? Like on your hip.
It's hanging on her hip.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see her eyes go to the mask at your hip, and her brow furrows for a moment, and she says, if you would trust me just a bit longer, please follow me. And she gets up, and she gives her back to you. So if you do want to stab her in the back, you do have the option. She is being very trustworthy with you.
No, Yuko or Farrell has been straightforward, so she's not gonna repay that with violence.
So Farrell walks out of the tea shop. She puts down a couple of shards to pay for the tea, and she walks out of the tea shop, and she's walking through the city. And yeah, Dog, you see these two leave the tea shop and start to wander off as you tail them again. However, Yuko, you get to a spot in the road where basically there's just nothing but like plants, like a wall of plants. Essentially, it looks like this plant has just sort of grown onto where this wall is. But Pharaoh parts these plants and sort of steps inside and holds it open for you to come in as she sort of gives you a nod. Do you follow her in?
Yeah.
So you walk through and it's kind of dark, but you're able to make your way through, and Pharaoh leads you to there's like this small opening where the buildings sort of make just like I want to say like a 10 by 5 opening in the middle of all these buildings. There's several cherry blossoms that just rest in between these buildings. And amongst the cherry blossoms, you see a blank tombstone, and you see your father's mask leaning against it as she sort of just motions towards the tombstone and kind of hangs back to see what you do.
So she, she kind of like takes a step forward, looks at Pharaoh for a second, moves forward again. And he said was it just his mask and not his name?
Yeah, so it's an unnamed tombstone with just his mask on the side of it.
Okay. And she'll kind of sink to her knees, pick up the mask for a second, it's kind of trembling, and just kind of stroke it for a second, trying to like kind of taking it in, like, is this real? Like, is this really the deal? Like, is this his actual mask? And then I guess just like after a second, man, she'll just break down,
Sure. So yeah.
She just kind of like goes into like, that ugly cry.
Yeah. So like Yuko, yeah, you break down, you start crying. And Pharaoh doesn't leave, but she really makes her presence just sort of dissipate. Like it's almost as if you're alone here. But she lets you have your moment. How long do you think Yuko would cry?
It'd probably be a while. She'd probably in there for 10 to 15 by herself, and then she would place the mask back, and just once again kind of give herself, put her hands in a prayer motion and say, just say, rest well, Tosa. And she'll stand up and just kind of look for Pharaoh and where to go.
So Pharaoh has her back to you, giving you that private moment, but she's sort of back towards the opening of this place.
Okay. And so she won't speak until they get onto the other side.
Okay.
But she'll say, how did he die?
She pauses, and you could kind of hear her take a swallow. And she says, he made an attempt on my life. I did not know who he was.
You kind of see, like, she just kind of deflates in a way. She says, I won't hold that one against you. If he was doing it in his capacity as his job, sometimes you don't come back.
I've had my thoughts that recently, it may have been Shuichi's doing, but I have yet to prove it.
She just kind of, takes a deep breath, looks into the sky for a while, says, look, I don't know how aligned our interests could really be, but it seems like you aren't trusting Shoichi so much these days, and I've got a real big bone to pick with that guy, obviously. So how about we make this team happen?
As a fellow believer in revenge myself, I will assist you, but I will not be the one to do it. I think that falls to you. But I will.
I would never want you to do. I don't want that stolen from you. It's got to be me.
She gives you a nod. She says, however, in every other capacity I have, I will point your blade toward his heart.
She just kind of, gives another deep breath. Says, "Good."
So, as you guys are sort of having that moment, like, she has like this. Her clothes are basically covering all of her except for her eyes, and she grabs the like, so if you can imagine, it's one of those robes where you can put your arms into the sleeves in front of you, so none of your arms or hands are showing. And she sort of unfurls and pulls back the sleeve from her right fist, and it's exactly as you imagined. It's a black fist, and you can tell now that it's the same. It looks the same as the tar. And she says, she holds her hand up to you, and she's like, "I know what it means to want revenge. So we may be more alike than you think. You're already helping me with mine, and I'll help you with yours." And she slowly lowers it back and tucks it back in.
Hell yeah! No, Yuko just kind of gives her this nod. Says, "I got no more beef with you, Pharaoh. We're good."
Returning to their regularly scheduled jobs, they take on a heist, an easy vault dive of the Tsukio Temple. They successfully sneak all the way around the temple before being caught while infiltrating through a window. The SDA, however, decide to continue forward with the plan and pilfer what they can. The temple's fighting spirit is a bit pathetic, and the SDA get out without being much worse for wear. Next, Toby hears that Luther, the new hotshit summoner, has been looking for him. They meet up, and he requests Toby to do a job for him. He says if he's able to do it, he can give Toby the schematics for the device that allows him to control two Eidolons. Toby's licking his lips. Before they're able to go through with this mission, however, there was a family dinner. And yet, before that family dinner, Dukonga had the time to speak with his ancestor, Obaba. Yeah, so you do your ritual, and you feel the presence of Obaba, and she's like, you see her face sort of appear in the embers there. "How can I help you, my child?"
Oh, Baba, and then he does the bow. "It is so good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
I am sorry to bother you while you are in your eternal rest, but there are things that have been bothering me lately, and I feel only your wisdom and information can help me through my inner turmoil."
Oh, yes, what is the problem?
I know you have been watching over us, and I know you have seen my daughter Yuko. There is something inside her that grows in strength and fury. Is there anything I need to know that can protect her and this family?
Oh, she protect you.
Oh,
Not you protect her.
oh, Baba, I am like her father. I am her father. How is this possible? I know
Dukonga, you
No,
are a
they-
master crafter, but great warrior. We both know that is not your specialty.
Oh, Baba.
Dukonga, you have a kind heart. You are a great healer, master crafter, not great warrior. Yuko, great warrior.
Yes, yes.
You must support her. Will she protect you and the family?
How can I help her control this rage, this fury that grows in her?
Just be ever present. She has pure heart. However, it is coated in mud. But it will soon be cleansed if she can achieve her mission.
Oh, Baba, your wisdom, it always brings me such calm, such serenity. I miss you so much.
Don't miss me, I am but a fire away.
Oh, Baba. I love you dearly.
I love you too.
Tell the family that you missed him as well.
Yes,
They miss you.
tell them I miss them. And I look forward to our next battle.
Yes. Go in peace, oh Baba.
Bye-bye now.
And she's gone.
Hell yeah.
And then like the forge just goes black. Like just the flame disappears. And then like just from like the little bit of incense, that ember that's on top lights his face, and like Dukonga is crying just a little bit. But at the same time, you see his smile, and he's like, good.
Armed with this information, Dukonga was excited to discuss this with Dog. He goes to meet Dog at his apartment with a peace offering of beer. Dukonga apologizes for it taking so long, but that it took some time until he was able to reach the ancestor he felt would have the most information. Dukonga excitedly tells Dog that he is the tether to Yuko's good side, that so long as him and his family remain, she will never lose herself. He tells Dog he has been assured not only by his ancestors but Yuko's as well. Dog takes a drink and questions what happened should Dukonga fall, or if anything should happen to her family. Dukonga admits he had not considered that, but that he trusts in what his ancestors told him about her becoming a powerful protector for them. Dukonga tells Dog that both of them should be good guides for Yuko and lead her down the right path, so that she doesn't ever lose herself. Dog accepts this, but brings up another concern. He asks if Dukonga has ever heard of the Black Hand. The dwarf tells him he's not familiar with the term. Dog reveals that he doesn't know what it is either, but that when it was brought up, that was when he saw that rage reveal itself in her once again. Dog reiterates that there should be no secrets among the pack, and they should get everything out in the open. Dukonga accepts this and says they should have the conversation with everyone in the future. He apologizes for his harsh words to Dog earlier, but explains himself that it was his fatherly instinct kicking in. He invites Dog to a dinner at his home with everyone for a leisurely meal to mend fences. That evening, all the members of the SDA arrive at the Umbaso home. Minji brings gifts of jewelry for Samira and Issa, as well as candy for the kids. The mothers scold the children for trying to eat it before dinner, but Minji helps them sneakily scarf down a few snacks. The food spread is vast and delicious. Various types of meat, poultry, fruits, and vegetables have been laid out for the guests, as well as various types of alcohol. The crew sit and eat. For a while, all is well, as everyone enjoys themselves. Dog takes this opportunity, however, to needle Minji during the latter half of the meal. As the meal winds down, Yuko takes her siblings into the other room to work off the food with some quick sparring. Toby and Maxie follow suit, with Maxie letting the kids play on him like a jungle gym. When only Dog, Minji, Dukonga, and his wives remain, Minji drops the pleasant facade and asks Dog directly if there's something he'd like to discuss. Dog says he just wants to make sure the next mission isn't something they'll have to die for. Minji states that it's her intention that everyone comes home safely from their jobs, but she can't guarantee anything, of course, and if that's too hot for Dog, perhaps he should retire. Dukonga tries to cool the conversation down by reiterating that the crew is there for each other and will protect one another through the dangerous missions they will be going on. He readily admits the last mission, referring to the tower, has left them intimidated and perhaps fearful. He gestures towards his home and family and states he understands those fears completely. He looks towards Minji and states that he understands gold does motivate her, but that gold will not save them from a deadly blow. Minji isn't having it. She responds that love and family isn't going to put food on the table. She has no issues reevaluating their business partnerships if need be. She won't force anyone to go along, but her goal is to get to the top, above the plate. The goal of Dekonga's kids not having to grow up in the same shitty circumstances they all had to. The goal of not having to look over their shoulder constantly is what she aspires to. Dekonga and Toby caution that they should gather more information before exceptionally dangerous missions, and Dog accuses Minji of forcing the group's hand when it came to Pharaoh. Before Minji can respond, Dekonga brings up the Black Hand to the group at the table and asks Issa to go retrieve Yuko from the other room. He tells Yuko that this name, the Black Hand or Black Fist, has come to him. He says if that name is important to her, she should inform the group, especially if it's something that affects all of them. Yuko is immediately defensive and questions what this line of questioning is even supposed to be. Minji flutters on to the young blood's shoulder in commiseration. Dekonga tries to calm Yuko down, but it's a futile effort. She demands to know who has an issue, and eventually she and Dog begin to argue. Dog doesn't like secrets among the pack, and he knows she has some she's keeping from the group that could affect them all. Yuko doesn't buy into his declaration that he has no secrets kept from the group and seems angry that they're trying to force something out of her. Yuko reiterates that she was going to come to them when she was ready, but now she doesn't know if she ever will be. Dekonga, frustrated, tells her that this was one of those times where he had to come to her, that the questions being asked are important and necessary to protect her and those she cares about. Yuko simply responds that if it's up to her, the crew and family won't ever have to worry about what she's going through. Then she leaves with Minji riding on her shoulder. Toby breaks the awkward silence that follows by telling Dekonga of the job that Luther has given him, and the potential blueprints for the same gear that has increased Luther's power. He asks if they got those blueprints, would Dekonga be able to boost Maxi's power instead of summoning two? Dekonga asks about the details of the mission, and Toby and Dog relay what they know. Dekonga tells the pair they should gather what information they can about the location over the next couple of weeks before bringing it up to the group. Exhausted, Dekonga thanks Toby for coming and tells him that he can take any food he wishes, but it's time for him to go. Toby, who had already gotten out of his chair, was preparing to leave, wonders how the summoning of two spirits is possible. Dekonga states he must have the blueprints and that Toby must possess the power and will. After Toby leaves, Dekonga berates Dog for his actions in needling Minji and that this confrontation could have happened another night. He wanted the dinner to be about building bonds between them, and now they're even more strained. Dog is at least happy that these things are out in the open, but he admits that he didn't expect Yuko to react the way she did. Dekonga insists that he and Dog must act as the elders for Yuko, to be both guides and trusted sources for her, which Dog accepts. The old friends then sit and drink the troubles of the evening away. Minji and Yuko retreat to Mashiso and pop kegs and bottles as they jump into the hot tub and begin complaining about the night's events. Yuko slams back ale as Minji drinks peach soju and tries to ease her stress. Yuko asks Minji why she's stressed out, and the fairy brings up that Dog seems to have forgotten that a majority of the group decided to work with Pharaoh. She notes that something happened to him in that tower, and while she gets it, it was bad vibes and creepy as fuck after all. They made it back through and got back in one piece. She complains that he has been on her ass about that mission since then. Yuko commiserates and says she doesn't know what's going on with Dog either, and that he and Dekonga are trying to get her to talk about stuff she isn't ready to talk about yet, and she doesn't want any of them to die. She cuts herself off before going any further, but Minji, fuming in her own right while sipping soju, doesn't notice. The two get progressively more drunk, and as Yuko tells Minji she's the best boss, Minji tells her, Imoto, that she's her own woman and sometimes you gotta do what's right for you. The two go club hopping after that and eventually end up doing karaoke at the Norebang, before drunkenly passing out in the booth. The pair are woken up and kicked out in the morning, and with savage headaches they make their way back home. Putting aside their differences, they take on the bounty of 1 grok. an orc dock worker who is wanted. The job turns out to be a bit easy as Minji walked up to the target, charmed him, and led him straight to the authorities. After wrapping up this easy task, the crew decided to take on Luther's job proposal. With the SDA in position watching over Toby, who was doing the deal, they were attacked by some real mutilated cyberpunkian thugs. The fight was tough, but they were able to prevail. So what will the SDA do now? Will Toby gain these dual Eidolon enhancements? Will the crew tumble to turmoil? Will Yuko get her chance at revenge? Let's find out.